Am I the a-hole for buying my sister's dream house and igniting a family feud? I, 29F, and my wife, 31F, recently closed on our dream house, and now our family is torn apart. Years ago, my grandparents owned a beautiful estate that was the heart of our family gatherings. When they passed away unexpectedly, their substantial medical debt forced us to sell the house. It was a devastating loss, and even as a small child, I vowed to one day buy it back. I shared this dream with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18 and she was 21. Her parents owned a small rental property where she lived rent-free, only covering expenses. A year into our relationship, she invited me to live with her, and a year later, we got married. I told her about my dream of owning my grandparents' house, and she wholeheartedly supported me. We started saving aggressively, hoping the house wouldn't go on the market before we could afford it. Thanks to not paying rent and having good jobs, we managed to save a substantial amount. My in-laws also contributed $75,000 for the down payment, bringing our total savings to about $185,000. About 20 years after my grandparents passed, their house finally went on the market at a hefty price. The estate is massive with 6 bedrooms, a lakefront view, a pool, and a guest house. Knowing it would be expensive, we scrimped and saved for nearly a decade to make this dream a reality. My sister was also house hunting at the time, but with a much smaller budget. She and her husband have kids, student debt, and had been renting for years. When the house went on the market, I sent her the listing and told her we were finally getting our grandparents' home back in the family. She was excited and supportive, or so I thought. We moved forward, visiting the owners and real estate agents, getting inspections, and making an offer. They accepted, and we were overjoyed. Throughout this process, my sister kept expressing how thrilled she was to have the house back in the family, even talking about her kids growing up there. It felt like a red flag, but I dismissed it as excitement. At a celebratory BBQ at my parents' house, my MIL offered to kennel our dogs while we moved, to which my sister replied that her kids would need more supervision than our dogs. Confused, my wife asked what she meant, and my sister said she didn't understand why we'd need our dogs watched when her kids would need more attention. I clarified that we were moving because we just closed on a house. My sister seemed puzzled, and then revealed her assumption. She thought we were buying the house to rent to own it to her, or transfer the title to her eventually. She genuinely believed this, despite us never discussing it. When I told her this wasn't happening, she threw a fit. She argued it wasn't fair for only one of us to live our dream, especially since she had kids who deserved to grow up there. My wife calmly stated that it wasn't the family home anymore. It was our home since we bought it. My sister lashed out, telling my wife to shut up, and I warned her that if she disrespected my wife again, we'd cut contact. We left the BBQ in shock. My in-laws supported us, saying my sister was out of line. But my parents and some distant relatives bombarded us with messages, accusing us of taking my sister's dream and that we should give her the house because we don't have kids and could find another place. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was living a Reddit story about entitled people thinking they deserve someone else's house. Here's where things get surreal. My parents revealed that my sister told them we had an agreement to rent the house to her family until they could buy it, and we'd live in the guest house. She spun a story about us going back on our word, shattering her dreams. My parents were initially furious with us, but once I showed them the text exchanges proving there was never such an agreement, they apologized. We confronted my sister, who broke down crying, claiming we got everything handed to us and didn't need such a big house. She thought she could manipulate everyone into bullying us into giving her the house. It was like a twisted real-life Scooby-Doo plot. Just when we thought the situation couldn't get more complicated, we discovered that my sister had secretly taken out a substantial loan, using the house as collateral. She had convinced the lender that she would soon own the property and needed the funds to cover their immediate financial struggles. When the lender realized the house was not in her name, they threatened legal action, putting us in a precarious position. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the situation. When I showed the loan documents to my parents, they were horrified and confronted my sister. She admitted to the deception but insisted she did it for the sake of her family. We had to involve a lawyer to sort out the mess and ensure the house remained legally ours. We decided to hold a family meeting with our parents to discuss the situation and the future of our relationships. During the meeting, my sister's husband revealed that they had been struggling financially more than they let on. They were hoping the house would provide stability for their family, which is why my sister was so desperate. My parents were torn, but ultimately agreed that the house belonged to us. We decided to honor our grandparents' wishes by allowing the house to be a family retreat with scheduled times for everyone to use it, but my wife and I would remain the primary owners. Edit. Wow, this blew up in such a short amount of time. Thank you for your support. Yes, this unfortunately is a real situation. The house is big and expensive, but severely outdated, which is why the price doesn't match the features in today's housing market. It hasn't been renovated in years. Also, I am a woman, in case anyone was curious. Update. I can't read and respond to all of these comments, but thank you. Since posting, not much has happened. We will be getting a security system, but the house isn't in a state where it can be installed yet. We're looking into battery-powered trail cameras as a temporary measure. We're restoring the house to its original glory, pre-carpeted bathrooms and mismatched wallpaper. We're also fixing broken items, upgrading appliances, redoing floors, painting, wallpapering, installing new windows, and opening up some unnecessary walls. For the next 2 weeks, my wife and I will be meeting with people for electrical, plumbing, and other renovations. We've consulted with a home security company for cameras, alarms, and a gated entry. We've already made an appointment to change the locks and aren't concerned about my family trying to squat there. My in-laws have allowed us to park their camper on the property during the renovations. Further update. After the BBQ, I sent a message to my parents and siblings, asking to meet and talk things through. My wife and I met my parents and brother's family at his house before my sister arrived. I showed them the text strings where I first sent my sister the listing, and every conversation updating her on the progress. My mom asked to see the rest of the conversations, and I told her there were none. She informed me that my sister told them we had agreed to rent the house to her family until they could buy it, and that we'd live in the guest house. My sister arrived with her husband, who is a doormat, and usually gives her whatever she wants. I asked her to produce any evidence of this supposed agreement, and she couldn't. She started crying, saying it wasn't fair that we got everything handed to us and didn't need such a big house. She thought she could trick everyone into bullying us into giving her the house. We told her she had a lot of apologizing to do before we'd consider a relationship with her. For now, she's blocked, and our relationship with my parents is rocky. They've offered to help with moving and renovations, but we're unsure if we're comfortable with that. We won't be giving anyone in my family a spare key, but my wife's parents will have one for emergencies. We'll cross the "can my family be trusted at our home" bridge when we come to it. To answer some common questions, my sister isn't mentally unstable, just entitled and dramatic. My parents don't really coddle her, but she's considered the golden child and the baby of the family. My wife and I aren't wealthy. We saved diligently and got help from her parents. My sister's behavior is baffling, and we're taking precautions to protect our home. Amidst sorting out the legal mess my sister created with the loan, we found out she had been secretly planning to move into the house while we were still renovating it. She had already packed some of her belongings and even tried to change the locks. We discovered this when a contractor found her boxes in the garage and alerted us. We confronted my sister, who didn't deny it. She said she thought if she moved in first, we'd be forced to let her stay. This was the final straw. We've now involved law enforcement to ensure she doesn't try to move in again, and we've taken additional legal steps to protect our property. So yeah, not as drama-filled as some might have hoped. But this is the situation. We're focusing on our new house and not my sister. She's blocked on both our phones, and I'm not sure when I'll unblock her. Final update. In the midst of dealing with these issues, we've decided to install a full security system as soon as possible, regardless.